At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
At Room to Room, there's no need to wait. Black Friday deals are going on now.
Ready for the best sleep you've had in years? For a limited time only, get an heirloom king-size mattress for the price of a queen.
Room to Room Tupelo, where we know there's no place like your home.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Well, welcome to Mississippi Live Weather at 5. We have a busy broadcast coming to you with our Mississippi Live Game of the Week, but also a potential busy start to the weekend. We have our Chief Meteorologist, Matt Laubon, joining us from Oxford. I know we're talking about those busy weather coming up, but it looks like it's calm out there in Oxford right now.
It is right now, hence the reason we're in Oxford this evening and not trying to do this game of the week tomorrow, because that would just kind of be a mess potentially. Now, let's be real clear here about something. There's no guarantee we're going to have severe weather tomorrow, but just with the potential, a lot of area games have been moved to Thursday night. In fact, most games around the state have been moved to Thursday night as a result. We'll talk to our Will Kohlmeyer a little bit more about that coming up here in a couple of minutes. But outside this evening, as you can see behind me, those clear skies are largely the story, and we do anticipate that it's going to be just a beautiful evening for football. But again, clear and dry for football is one thing. Tomorrow, things start to change. Some strong storms are possible on your Friday, including the potential maybe for some severe thunderstorms. We'll look at where and when with the complete breakdown. I'll have that for you here in a minute. And the chances have been expanded into Saturday. The thinking is for most of us that Saturday will not include severe weather, but it's just not an impossibility. Storm Prediction Center, Norman, Oklahoma, expanding that risk as a result. This evening is beautiful, though. We are 70. I've got the jacket here. By the conclusion of the games this evening, I'll probably need it. You'll probably need it if you're heading to some of these high school football games, including our Game of the Week location here in Oxford between the Oxford Chargers and the Yellow Jackets. There are Starkville. Huge matchup there with obviously playoff implications, and we're looking at that more here in a few minutes. But this evening is look through the first 12. We keep it dry. Those temperatures going about 56 by 9, 54 as we look toward midnight, and down into the mid-50s by 3 a.m. First chances for rainfall tomorrow could be early. There'll be no severe weather with what we have, at least initially, early on during the day. Here's our severe weather risk for today. There is none. So let's skip right past that. As we look toward tomorrow, the risk has been trimmed some, and we'll dig a lot more into the locations on this here in a minute. But as you can see, the yellow has been pushed up into Tennessee. We talked about last night the difference north-south versus where we had all of the instability and fuel and everything with the upper-level winds. Those are still a little bit out of phase. Thankfully, that hopefully limits the overall severe weather potential. And then that limited risk as we go into Saturday. Same frontal boundary that kind of moves toward the area, shifting through will bring much drier and cooler conditions in the extended, but as it shifts through, is there enough fuel for a couple of strong thunderstorms? That's why the Storm Prediction Center puts that limited level 1 out of 5 severe weather risk there related to that. Nothing on Mississippi Live Weather Radar at this point here across the region, and Futurecast keeping it dry into this evening as well. As you can see, nothing but clear skies out there, not just here, but across the entire portion of the region. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom this out just a little bit here. As we do, couple of factors we're looking at. Again, moisture from the Gulf of Mexico has been one of the stories. I actually slide this a little bit eastward. You can see that high pressure center there back toward the east coast. That's important because that has allowed return flow out of the Gulf of Mexico, or at least what we call return flow. That's that moisture out of the south. That's going to intercept that front back to the north and west, and the combination of those two things are the reason why, of course, we have this at least limited severe weather risk. Let's look at our southeast view here on Futurecast. And again, as we do that, you'll notice no precipitation, though, as we go into the evening. So this game and all of our high school football games this evening are going to be dry. But you can still see on the wide shot there that moisture, that cloud cover coming out of the south. That, again, is what's going to feed some of the thunderstorm chances for tomorrow, 7:30 or so in the morning. We don't have much activity. But notice the percentages there. They remain still fairly limited early. They get more likely in the afternoon. Okay, so you're going, whoa. I'm looking at the percentages there, 10%. What gives? Okay, here's the deal. With limited moisture, our projections don't have much, and we are very hopeful that that's the way this plays out. I think a pretty good chance, hence the reason that level 2 threat has been trimmed northward. But if I were to make some arguments for kind of the plausible worst case scenario on how this kind of plays out. Into the afternoon and evening, a few thunderstorms could potentially become strong to severe. And so I think that greatest threat probably arrived later in the day associated with that. More on that in a minute. But as you can see, from 54 in the morning, mid-70s by afternoon. We could actually have some 80s out there, and we'll look city by city at those high temperatures coming up here in just a couple minutes as we break down that full forecast there. Coming up in 60 seconds, though, again, we are looking at kind of the idiosyncrasies on how the tornado, damaging wind, and in particular, hail threats could play out with this. I think hail, the most likely of those potential severe weather threats, but we're hopeful that clear conditions, or at least dry conditions that are out here today, could be one of those signs that maybe we're limited on moisture. Your complete forecast in 60 seconds here from the Room to Room Weather Center and our Mississippi Live Game of the Week, as Mississippi Live at 5 continues right after this.
Give the gift of a delicious burger from Bulldog Burger, a soup and sandwich from Sweet Pepper's Deli, appetizers and cocktails from The Grill, or even a wood-fired steak from Harvey's. Choice is the perfect gift. An all-in-one gift card from Eat With Us.
We're all just trying to keep things running for those who rely on us. That's why we don't have time to be sick with the flu.
We don't have time for delays. Ready!
We don't have time for spills.
Next. We don't have time for setbacks. Let's be real.
Getting the flu shot
helps you fight the flu.
Get a flu shot for yourself and those around you too.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovehon.
So we are live here in Oxford for our Mississippi Live Game of the Week presented by KC Lott. We'll have that forecast for this game and all of your Thursday night football games. See, I can't be taught something. I remembered it was Thursday a minute ago there. Again, Oxford, home of the Chargers. They are 8-1 this year. Will Kohlmeyer will be talking about this more in our Kohlmeyer's Corner here in a minute. But obviously, Starkville also a traditional powerhouse here, and expecting this to just be an excellent game. Our band and cheer of the week, we'll talk about the standings on that. I think Starkville leading both of those at this point in time. That's come up here in a couple of minutes. But again, severe weather threat for tomorrow is our big headline and our top story this evening. As far as confidence goes, we're not confident in the potential for tornadoes. I think it's highly likely we will not have tornadoes out of this setup. In saying that, a rotating storm or two is not impossible, hence the reason it's not zero. Wind gusts also fairly limited. Hail, and honestly, medium on hail. Even when Caleb and I talked as I was driving over to Oxford, he's like, medium on hail? Yeah, it's probably pushing it a little bit. But if I were to say one of them's more elevated than the rest, I would say that hail threat is the greatest, and even it is not impressive. So we're hoping that this remains an overall limited chance for more active weather. So our Mississippi High School Game of the Week here presented by KC Lott and Langston and Lott. 63 that pregame temperature this evening. We're 58 by halftime and 56 by the conclusion. I got long sleeves on. Hey, one way we kept Gabe Maynor from wearing shorts is he's not here. He's off this evening, so I'll have your highlights for that game coming up afterward on Mississippi Live at 10. Of course, we'll also be talking about the latest on this overall severe weather threat at that point in time as well. Looking at temperatures right now coming in the mid-60s to low 70s. This is well above, at least a couple degrees above where we should be high temperature-wise for this time of year, which is somewhere in the mid 60s. So, yeah, we're running a little bit above our normal for this time. Maybe way above, is over-exaggerating a little bit. This is the story, though. See these dew points. To measure moisture based on the same scale of temperature. The fact that these numbers are mostly in the 50s and in some cases in the lower 50s, that's one of those good signs. Hopefully limiting the severe weather potential for tomorrow. If we're looking at a limiting factor, that is probably one of those. Hour-by-hour forecast on your day planner here. We're going 56 at 7 a.m., 67 looks toward 10 a.m., mid-70s by 1 p.m. and into the afternoon, probably mid-70s for highs. Those southwest winds dragging in more moisture. So while it's fairly dry now, we will have a lot more moisture to work with for thunderstorms later tomorrow. And eventually that could lead to at least some storm chances trying to pop up. But let's break down this threat. And so in doing so, you'll note that the risk area related to this on Futurecast is non-existent for tonight. We are dry. We are to progress throughout the evening, and we have those southerly winds. 56 by the conclusion of a lot of these high school football games, and then heading down into the mid-50s by, say, 2 o'clock in the morning. Those clouds are a sign of that moisture starting to increase. As moisture increases, rain chances will eventually as well. You can see it does depict there on Futurecast a couple of spotty sprinkles. This is not meaningful moisture. So sprinkles, kind of drizzle that's sort of related to the returning moisture, just the signs that the Gulf of Mexico is waking up and trying to prime the atmosphere somewhat. So low temperatures tomorrow morning, we're in the mid 50s to maybe even some spots near 60. We show Greenville at 60. We're 58 out there in Belzona, 57 in Greenwood versus about 54 in Corinth, where I was actually talking to the folks out there at Rotary earlier on today. I think, again, a limited severe weather threat from most locations tomorrow, including up there in Alcorn County as we go through the day. High temperatures, nearly 80 degrees out there for the Delta. Cleveland at 78 in Grenada versus 76 Tupelo. And we show slightly cooler up there, Red Bay back toward Hamilton. Some clouds, maybe limit that somewhat. I think it might be a little low on some of those temperatures for tomorrow because of that cloud cover impact there. So, again, at say 9 a.m., we don't show much activity out there. Those southerly winds start picking up. It will be a bit breezy. Now, here's where Futurecast and I have some questions. Okay, so you can see there a few isolated showers developing there. Some of our projections, like the HRRR, that's that model that you kind of see above me there, right? That particular projection shows more thunderstorms developing east to Hamilton toward Birmingham, south of our area. So while this shows almost nothing on there at 2 p.m., for us, as we talked about last night, that could be the case. We could be in that sweet spot where it's either north and south and not over us. And Futurecast says in the afternoon, hopefully that's the way that plays out. And the fact that moisture remains limited, I think, is a factor working in our direction as far as that's concerned. So I am hopeful that that ends up proving to be the case. As we progress there into, say, the evening, see the clouds from Oxford where we're at now back up toward Boonville. That is a zone there of lift that could activate to more rain chances than what that is indicating there. And so I think into the evening, could be one of our better chances. We will look at that here in just a moment in more detail. As you can see, 8 p.m., not much. But watch as we go towards 9 p.m. A little bit more dark green showing up. As we look toward 10 p.m. there, just a little bit more back toward Red Bay and Boonville. So here's the deal. We're on the development end of this. What that means is what becomes a problem for Tennessee or Alabama starts here. So does it start and prove to be nothing while it's here? A decent possibility. Fingers crossed for that. When you're talking about limited moisture, that sometimes is the case and ends up being the way it works out. So I'm hoping that's the case here. But you can see 11 p.m., not much. As we head towards, say, midnight, 1, 2 o'clock, right there. Then it says, okay, enough of a front, enough of a moisture, enough winds aloft to get something going. But do you see any darker reds? Do you see any pinks there? Do you see anything strong? I don't. And so that's the deal. That's why in looking at this, I'm just honestly not impressed by what we're seeing. But if for whatever reason we wake up tomorrow and the moisture's run a little bit ahead, that's where this ends up being slightly more than what we're showing you there. So fingers crossed, that ends up being what we're seeing. So severe weather risk, as you can see here, limited, level 1 out of 5. What this means, right there above me, it also says number of reports. A very limited number of reports possible as storms are developing and gradually trying to work their way eastward. Let's widen this just a little bit. What has happened today is we have seen that severe weather risk trimmed northward just a little bit because that did extend more deeply into our area earlier on. I'll kind of draw on here for a moment. We did have that as far south as down here all the way to Corinth and Tupelo with this earlier on. This is something issued by the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. So the reason why they eliminated that is, again, the moisture is just so marginal on this and a good chance that it doesn't meet a high enough threshold. So we could wake up tomorrow morning and the front that kind of nudged through the area, that shoved moisture south and nudge it far enough, and maybe there's more there to work off of. So that's the only way in which I think this ends up a little higher than it is now. But that's a good sign there that I think hopefully means a more limited chance for precipitation out of this that's significant. Again, I think the large hail risk is the main of any of the threats we could see. And even that is more concentrated to the north of us. As we look for tornado threat, there is one. But as you'll look closely there, it's again that level 1 threat where I'd say it's in the not impossible category, but I would say it's somewhere between low to very low chance of us seeing tornadoes out of this setup. And then as we progress and look at the wind threat, similar locations, similar concerns. But again, I think most of us probably avoid that more significant threat. Now, notice that front that kind of kicks out some of the storm chances. I plot that back on there. It's nudging southward through the areas we progress into your Saturday. And notice we start off with most of the showers, say West Point, Starkville, Louisville, by around 6 a.m. in the morning. Make sure to have that Mississippi Live weather app handy. You'll be in good shape. But again, I expect this to largely be a fairly limited chance for anything. But in saying that, if we can get something developed, it's not impossible that we get maybe a couple of strong wind gusts or a hailstone out of it. But as you can see, they're progressing into your Saturday. Those chances limited through the day. So I'd say it's the early part of the day in particular. And then this front here, not just, see how fast that moved through? That's, we've said drier air. I mean, you can even see the dots there starting to become more pronounced. That is the drier air, cooler air. That shoved the moisture out of here. So any severe weather threat is gone beyond that. And Caleb, we got to go back a graphic. I mentioned, it might be possible we had to go back one. I skipped past this. This is our severe weather risk for tomorrow. And largely it is early in the day that I would say the risk is there with kind of whatever's along that initial front. And then as that shoves kind of through, that risk becomes more limited. So most of us are probably non-severe for thunderstorms on Saturday as well. Look, it's still showing some 80s there for Belzona because, again, that initial wave isn't really a cooler air. And then 70 showing up for Tupelo, back up to around Oxford, 76, 74 back there for South Haven as drier and cooler air slides in behind that into the weekend. So, again, SEC football forecast presented here by Carl Hogan, Toyota. Again, appreciate them for being our SEC presenting sponsor this year all season long. Mississippi State versus Georgia. That one, again, there's where that limited chance for rainfall is. Can't rule something out early in the game. Our meteorologist, Caleb Edible, will be at that game. No, he will not have highlights. He's just going to enjoy that game, hopefully. Hopefully it's an enjoyable one there. 78, that final snap temperature there. It's probably going to be a little hotter than that 70s there probably indicates there. As we look for the forecast for Ole Miss here in Oxford versus the Citadel, again, non-zero rain chance there. Most of us are probably dry. I'm not thinking necessarily rain gear is a necessity on this, but, a highly placed shower just the wrong spot would be annoying, wouldn't it? And it's not an impossibility. So we'll watch that and see how that evolves for tomorrow. Mid-70s for the halftime temperature there, diminishing a little bit by the end of the game with those temperatures dropping. And then LSU at Bama, 6:30 kick for that game. Slightly better rain chances there out into Alabama where maybe some thunderstorms try developing into the latter part of the day and into the evening as that secondary front pushes in. We'll say 40% at the top rain chance. If I were looking at the coverage of the area, that's overblown. But for the specific location there at the stadium, again, higher impact potential. That's why we're looking at that. So that kind of casts a shadow on the rain chances in Mississippi State Ole Miss. I think mostly those are going to end up being non-issues there. So as we look hour by hour for tomorrow, obviously rain chances peak in the afternoon and the evening. Isolated, strong thunderstorm, not an impossibility out of this. And then as we look at that 7-day forecast, we're 76 there into Saturday. We are 55 as we look towards Sunday. 45 by Monday. Yes. 76, 55, 45. That drop is legit. That's not a mess up there. That's how powerful this next front is. It scoops all the moisture out of here that tries to get in and produce storms and shoves it all down in the Gulf of Mexico. That's why we are back there in the 20s for morning lows by Monday and Tuesday of next week. Yeah, that's not just a freeze, Caleb. That is a hard freeze that we're likely looking at the extended forecast there. So a lot cooler weather on the way in behind that. Again, I'm at our Mississippi Live Game of the Week location here in Oxford. Could you really have a more colorful, clear sky sunset? I had to look over my glasses to make sure I got to look at that. It is beautiful out here. And our Will Kohlmeyer has a breakdown on this incredible ranked matchup between these two teams with our sports coverage here. Will, what do you got?
Welcome to a special 5 o'clock Thursday night edition of Kohlmeyer's Corner. Of course, normally it's Friday at 5 when I break down the high school games, and every Friday at 6 we take a look at the SEC games, including Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Alabama. But with all the inclement weather that my friends here at Mississippi Live have predicted for tomorrow night, that's why just about every game, not just in North Mississippi, but around the state, are playing their games tonight. And that includes our game of the week. I know Matt's already talked a little bit about that already, but let's dip a little bit further into that preview as we scratch more than just the surface. Starkville at Oxford, the Lil Egg Bowl, and Starkville, boy, gut-wrenching loss last week, right? Against Madison Central, the Jaguars kicked a last-second field goal to beat Starkville. So Starkville will not be at home next week when the playoffs begin. They're either going to be a 3 or a 4 seed, depending on what happens tonight with Clinton and Madison Central. Kingston Johnson, their fine quarterback, is going to need another night like he did last week against Madison Central. He threw for over 200, and he ran for 3 touchdowns. Torian Knox had another solid night. He eclipsed the century mark in carries when it comes to rushing yards, and he also had a touchdown. Now, Oxford, what a job Chris Cutcliffe has done in his 10 years. This is now 5 division titles in 10 years for Coach Cut. And then, of course, this is 3 straight division titles, 13th overall for Oxford. And remember, Cutcliffe led the Chargers to a state championship back in 2019 in those games that were played down at Southern Miss. Of course, this year, the state championships will be at Mississippi State. And also, they're going for their 15th straight division win tonight. Should be a good one, Starkville and Oxford. Now, tonight at 6 o'clock, I'll take a look at some of the other top matchup that we have. Remember, 5, 6, and 7A are still regular season. 1 through 4A begin their playoffs. I'll take a closer look at both, but that's the story now for Coal Myers Corner at 5 o'clock. Caleb, we'll send it back to you.
Well, big thanks to both our chief meteorologist, Matt Laubon, and Will Kohlmeyer for giving us all that insightful information. Before you go, our chief meteorologist, Matt Laubon, had a little adventure with Room to Room earlier. Let's take a look.
Well, hey there, I'm here at Room to Room in Tupelo. You know, what's one of the many things that they are doing in this season where we celebrate and are
Doing very well. Yourself?
all of the great things in our life.
Good.
Trying to get some of the kids from the Tupelo Children's Mansion adopted. With me here is Amber with Room to Room, and you've got this little guy. Show this guy.
Is he not the cutest?
He might not be wearing suspenders.
Yeah.
So cute.
Okay, so what are y'all doing?
Okay, so this is an annual thing. We've done this every year. It's a pajama drive. They can get look on the back of this little guy's picture, and it's going to have his age and shirt and pant size and slippers. They bring that back to the store by December 15th. We're going to get them wrapped, and then they're going to go to the Children's Mansion kids' pajamas on Christmas Eve.
That is incredible, you know, and Christmas pajamas aren't cheap, but it's one of those ways, you know, obviously to make them just bring a smile to their face.
Yeah, it's an experience, and we love being a part of that. And Room to Room fans and customers have been partnering with us for a very long time, for many years, coming in and doing this, and our open house is the kickoff for that.
Absolutely. Open house tonight, tomorrow, into the weekend as well. One of the other things you have here, I got to come over here and take a look at this, because one of the things that, you know, I know that people have asked Lisa about over and over again that also is raising money for something is this. This is a legit cookbook from her, right?
I know. Isn't this amazing? So Lisa loves to cook, and, you know, she does this annually, our Christmas open house, and she puts it on, and everybody's like, oh, I want to try that. I want to try that. So we have cookbooks this year. They're going to have all of her favorite things that you guys love so much. And, of course, it's going to help the Rooted Path out front, which is for the community.
Absolutely. It's just, you know, kind of incredible experience, you know, kind of a gift that Lisa has been working on that people have helped out with. And so we're just excited to see that way it comes along. I just love the field of flowers next to it during the warm season. If you haven't checked that out, that is worth the trip here alone. So open house going on tonight. We mentioned tomorrow as well as Saturday. What can folks expect with that?
Well, you're going to expect getting inspired. As you can see behind me, we have lots of Christmas decor, lots of beautiful things for your home. Of course, lots of yummy things to try. We also have a $100 coupon. We've got coupons for you guys, $100 off a $4.99 purchase or 20% off accessories. Of course, we have tons of Peter's Pottery, a lot of great gift ideas, everything for your senses. Just come in and check it out.
Absolutely. So again, working to help out those kids at the Children's Mansion, raising money for the Rooted Path here at Room to Room over the course of this weekend. Just thank you for all the stuff you and Miss Lisa do for the community and the entire staff here at Room to Room. We're just so glad and glad to be partnering with y'all in the Room to Room Weather Center and what we're doing here at Mississippi Live Weather. Thank you so much.
Thankful for you. Yes. Joy to the world. Merry Christmas.
Well, there you have it. There was a special look at what Matt was up to. Make sure to tune in to our 6 o'clock broadcast as well, because we'll also have the results, or that's when voting closes for your band and cheer squad of the week. So make sure to tune in then. And of course, Chief Meteorologist Matt Laubon will be giving us the highlights during the 10 o'clock broadcast as well. But like I just mentioned, we have the 6 and the 10 coming up later tonight. Going to be fun, action-packed broadcast with our game of the weeks on Thursday this week. So y'all go out, enjoy the rest of y'all's evening, and we'll be live back here in the Room to Room Weather Center in the next 35 minutes.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.